Hola, ¿se escucha?
Hello.
Vamos a dar unos minutos más para que se vayan uniendo. Am, para la gente de Facebook y YouTube, ¿pueden confirmar si se escucha? Por favor.
Sí.
Va, muchas gracias a todos. Am, bueno, antes de empezar con las clases como tal y empezar con el inglés, ¿alguien tiene alguna duda alguna duda que le haya surgido estos días? ¿Ya prepararon sus resumes para la revisión? Bueno, entonces, si no hay ninguna duda, Gober, ¿ya podemos empezar con la clase? ¿Estás listo?
Yeah, let's begin.
Uy, wait me a second. Ok,
Okay, so hello, my name is Roberto again. So we will be continue reviewing about the section of the resume. So as far as you know, the just like trying like to give a brief resume that we have been called so far. The resume is your CV here in LATAM, and is the part that you put like all your information about your professional experience, your contact information, your skills, but there are like certain parts that almost all the resume must have. What are those parts? Well, the parts are the first one is the contact information, the education, work experience, major projects, additional experience, and finally skills. We're going to deep go like deeper in each of these sections. Please, if you have like any questions, I'm going to pause at the end of each section and we can like solve questions per each section. So let's begin with the contact information. Next one, please.
okay, wait me a second, technical problems.
Yeah, no worry.
Okay,
Okay, let us begin. Next one, please. Okay,
ready?
cool. Yeah, super lag, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so the first part is your contact information. All the parts that how can we, the recruiter, reach you? This is important, and it must be the first part of your resume, and it must be at the top of the PDF. We try like to explain each of the points that we are like saying to you with like these color dots. So we think that this is going to be easier because it has like visual information, so you know what I'm talking about. So let's discuss the first point. Um, the first advice is write the name as it appears on the passport and or an official document, and capitalize last name so there will be a clear difference for the recruiter. Okay, let's discuss this. It's important to write the same name that you got in your official IDs, because for example, if you like going to, well, if you get your internship and they're going to take all their information probably for your resume. So if you are like abbreviating and putting like aliases that are not in your official IDs, maybe this is going to cause an issue in your final information or in your final offer. So it's important. And also the capitalization of your last name, it's a way to get noticed by the recruiter. So for example, you know that in other countries they have like different names, surnames, and there are like a lot of variety of ways that other people are named. So a very easy way to get noticed and reach your resume very rapidly is by capitalizing your last name. So yeah, don't miss that little trick because it's super important. The second point, it's include a professional email that you check frequently. Yeah, this is like pretty straightforward. You are going to be contacted a lot by email, and if you like giving them email that you created in your high school or when you were very young, like I don't know, like a child's email, it's not to be like very professional, right? You're like trying to start your career in tech and also like as a professional. So yeah, let's create another email. For example, a very good advice is that you can put your full name in your email. For example, my complete name is Roberto Reyes Fragoso. So my email is Roberto Reyes Fragoso, right? Try to uh, use like very easy way to write your email, because for example, if you create like a very complex email like I don't know, with dashes and numbers and all that stuff, maybe it's going to create confusion. And by confusion, I mean like I know that they can copy and paste your email for your resume, but sometimes that is not going to be the case. So let's try to reduce the error rate of like misspelling your email. And the third point, the third point is about your phone, well, your phone number. And remember to use the country code for your phone number. Why do we need to do this? Well, actually, they are the persons that are working in like the big companies. Their headquarters are in the U.S., right? And when you want to apply for that kind of like jobs, maybe they want to reach you by phone. So if you don't know, you need like to put different numbers before they can call you. In this case, the country code. So for Mexico, the country code is 52. So put the 52 in at the beginning in your phone number. But if Mexico is not the case for you, you can like Google very easily which is your country code, and also try to check if you need like more information about how a US person is, well, could contact you. For example, I didn't know that if I'm correctly, you needed to put a one after the 52 if a US person want to reach you. I didn't know that. So also if you are not applying like to for a US position, uh, let's say that I want to do work for Google France. Again, change your country code.
Well, that's
And
not
yeah,
exactly in that way. If you put a one between in this case, the 52 and the rest of the phone number, it means that it's a cell phone number. If you don't include nothing, or you include zero, if I'm not wrong, it's a home number. The problem with Mexico is that, well, by some change in the law, if you write the one, you will get, let's say, a problem with your company because you type 52, 1, and the next 10 digits, and you will receive, you only need to type 10 numbers or something like that. But in the rest of the world, that one means that it's a cell phone. In Mexico, because of the change, the cell phone numbers and the home numbers are treated the same way, but in the rest of the world, no.
yeah, exactly. Try like to reach, if you can, try reach another person in the country that you are applying to, and just say like, can you call me and can you like get the current like all the description. It is a very easy way like to be sure that you are like putting your number in the correct format.
Yeah, but in
Um,
general, you can include the one. If you are applying for a company at Mexico, probably you need to raise the one.
oh yeah, that's important. Okay, the fourth point. Include links where it's possible to see your work or learn about you, but only where you have something interesting to show. And you might be wondering, well, can you give me an example of those links? And yes, of course. For example, your GitHub. And let's discuss first your GitHub. Your GitHub is, I would like to say, one of the most important parts that you can like put in your resume, because most of the time in GitHub you can like put code from open source projects, your contributions, and the recruiter can see like, oh well, maybe I don't know how this guy codes, but I can go and check all his side projects, or maybe there's something that he's not putting in the resume, and he can like very quickly check about uh, all your code that you're doing in GitHub. Also, this is like, it depends of the recruiter, but maybe they're not going to deep, well, to go too deep into your projects in GitHub. But it's better to have like something to put in GitHub than nothing. And the second one, the Stack Overflow. Well, I guess most of us use Stack Overflow like in a daily basis. And why not have the opportunity to create a profile and gain like some budget, some points, because we are using the site like very often, right? We have like some questions, or we don't know how to do something, and we go and search it on Stack Overflow, right? I remember that a long time ago, I was talking to a Google employee, and they were very interested in people that have like a lot of contribution in Stack Overflow. So he was like saying me, do you know like people that really love Stack Overflow and providing answers to the community? I'm really interested in hire them and well, doing the hiring process, right? So yeah, Stack Overflow is another a good way to like let them recruiter know how good you are at your communication, how much do you answer, how much do you rate the points, or how many topics are you interested in. And yeah, you're using it in a daily basis, right? So I encourage you to create a profile and put it on your resume. I haven't seen like a lot of resumes with a Stack Overflow link on them. So yeah, it will be very nice if you can like put your Stack Overflow on it. The third one, LinkedIn. This is a very controversial point of view, but I have seen like people on Twitter like blaming LinkedIn because they don't use them. But I would like to say that it's important. Why it's important? Because LinkedIn is a very specialized website only for like how can I say it? To search a job, and only like professional connections. So maybe your recruiter want to reach you through LinkedIn because it's easier for him like to send you a message and connect with you like, hey, do you have time for an interview tomorrow? And he will, and you will be like, oh yeah. And yeah, maybe if you don't use it, it's important to have it because it's one way like to reach you easily. And I can like take my my personal well, not opinion, experience, because I was like trying to apply to I don't remember, I guess it was like a Colombian startup, and the person that was like trying to reach me, he didn't know how to like write my phone number, and I guess she was like trying to reach me in another social media, but the easiest way was like to use LinkedIn, and she sent me a message, and yeah, so that's what I'm saying this. And the final one, your personal webpage. And your personal webpage, it's like I would like to say that the most important because it's your personal brand, right? You can put a lot of information that you would like to how can I say it, to show to the people, to the world. And you can put your own design sections. It's basically, as the name says, your personal webpage, right? And even if it's not like too complicated in terms of visual elements, you can like have like a great personal web page only using like a super simple CSS and HTML. Only like, hey, my name is Roberto, and I do this. Here's my resume and my contact information, and that's all, right? So yeah, also I'm not sure, but in certain positions you need like to put your personal web page as portfolio. I'm talking about like roles for UX designers, and all the design related pages. Well, roles. So yeah, don't like misunderstand the power of your personal web page. And also, if you're a student, you have like this package that GitHub offers you for free, and you can host your web page entirely on GitHub and get a free domain like for 1 year, if I'm correct. We can talk more about this in the future if you're really interested. And the final advice is don't include your photo. This is very common outside the US, but they don't care about if you're like very handsome. Maybe if you're applying for an actress or or a Hollywood role, but we are not, right? So yeah, don't include your photo. And yeah, that's all for this section. Do you have
Uh,
like any questions?
I want to
Yeah.
include some information more. The advice for the names are especially because in US, if you don't know, they have this something called middle name. It's something that sometimes makes confusion. In my case, when I start applying, I was like, okay, I'm not sure because I have two first names. I was not sure if put my second first name in the middle name or something like that. As a general recommendation, you can trade your first two your your first names as a first names. Don't include the middle names. This is something for US. And also remember that in US, usually they only have one last name. We also here at Mexico we have two last names, so you can include both of them in the last name as a last names. Um, oh, and also talking about the links, why we mentioned that only include if if you have something interesting to show. Because as we told you, the recruiters waste between 10 and 30 seconds in a quick check. If in that check they open a link and you have nothing to show in the first link, but you have something interesting in the second link, probably they will open the first one and say, okay, this is a waste of time, and don't open the second one. So only include, you can include the hyperlinks in general in the resume as a way to attract attention. For example, in my Microsoft interview, in my first round, my interviewer opened my GitHub and asked me questions about my GitHub. So it's not only for the recruiters, also for in your interviews, you can have questions related to the links that you include there. Um, okay, do you have any questions about this?
I don't think so.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, uh, I'll wait some seconds because I'm not sure how many delay we have with the other pages. We share with you the link to the GitHub education pack. We can talk more about that later if you want. Okay, we can continue. And if you have any questions, you can ask in any moment.
Okay, cool. So the second part or section. So the second section is education. And next one, please. What do we have to talk about education? Well, um, the first point that we would like to discuss is least higher level education or college onwards. And these have like a special point because you need to try to avoid technical degrees only if it's like relevant to programming. For example, let's say that my higher level education actually it's my university, right? But I did my technical degree in, I don't know, cooking. So is cooking important for the role? Maybe it can show that, well, you are good at cooking, right? You took like maybe your high school like a cooking technical degree. I'm not sure if it's a technical degree cooking, but it doesn't matter. Um, but for example, if in high school I did something like basic programming, some robotics, or some related some related topic to the job, you can put it. And that's all for this part. And now the second advice is this info can be left in the original language or translated. It depends here on how much you want like to translate or try to translate the name or your in your resume, but most of the time it's like very weird when you translate the name of your school into English. Maybe it can be misunderstood by your recruiter. It's easier to Google your school if you didn't translate the name of your school. For example, let's say that I'm going to translate APN, and it's going to be like maybe I translate one word of the Polytechnic. I'm not sure because you can also translate literally to another language because maybe it's going to have like a different meaning. So this is up to you. In my personal advice, don't do it. Leave it in the original language. But yeah,
Well,
and
talking about
yeah,
that also depends of who is reviewing your resume. For example, if your resume is reviewed by the recruiter, for example, as we told you yesterday, Microsoft has a recruiter for Latam countries. Uh, that person knows about the school, so you can let in the original language. As Oscar also mentioned yesterday, you can translate it if your school is in kanjis or some gra- uh, who is name? Some characters that are not the same as the US. But in general, you can let it in the original language or in English. But the problem if you translate in English is that you can, well, it's not the exactly name, and probably will be more difficult to search in internet or something like that.
yeah. So the second point is if you're graduated, write the full period. And if you're not, write your respective graduation. This is important because it depends on where your graduation date is going like to be able like to get an internship or a full-time position. Uh, we will talk more about this in the future workshops. But for example, you cannot apply for a full time if you are not going to return to your school after your internship. So this is what is important. And the last point, write your average if you consider it is good, and if not, skip it. It's not important. But for average, we meet your promedio in Spanish, and you need like always to include a scale. For example, in the US, it's known as the GPA, and it is right there on a scale of to 100. But in Mexico, our scales are, well, at least in some schools, are like from 1 to 10. So it's important to say like, oh well, I got an average of like 9 uh, out of 10, right? Because if you don't put like the scale, they are going to be very confused because they use another system to rate their students. And that's all for the education part. Do you have any questions, more comments? I guess we can continue.
Well, um, only to talk about this. Also, in some schools in US, is use another scale that is for 0 to 4. So it's something weird, but it's also used. And well, we need to wait some seconds. I'm not sure how many delay we have, but also we can mention that your GPA, as a general rule, if you have more than 8 or something like that, you can include it. You can also include it if you want, if you have less than that. And uh, well, it's not really relevant, but obviously a highest GPA could be another point for you between another candidates. So I think we let enough time. We can continue.
Okay, cool. So the next section, work experience. Okay, cool. So the first advice here is use past or present tense according if it's a past year or you're currently is your current one, right? And
Oh, wait, go over 1 second.
yeah,
We have one
yeah, okay,
question.
okay, cool.
Uh, okay, Samuel asked if computer science is the same as sistemas computacionales. Not
Mm,
exactly. Computer science is ciencias de la computación. In the case of sistemas computacionales, I think most of the people translate it as a computational systems. If I'm not sure, I don't remember my resume.
yeah, there are very different things. Even it's not a mistranslation. Even in Mexico, we have like those are two different careers. So yeah, don't put computer science if you're not in computer science. Well, reaching a computer science degree, but system engineering.
And yes, bachelor degree is the same as a licenciatura. Well, more or less. In US, you have, well, bachelor is the same as a licenciatura, but in US, they separate in different categories, like Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Engineer, Bachelor of, I don't remember, Economics or something like that. I am not totally aware of all of them. The one that we use most is Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Engineer. I could say that you can put any of that too, like Bachelor of Engineer in and your career, or Bachelor of Science in and your career. I think it's not really relevant that exactly part, but your career, in the case of sistemas computacionales, you can translate it as a computational systems. Well, this is my personal suggestion. I don't know if you have any other suggestion, Gober.
Yeah, it's a good translation. because even if the forms that they like send you, they have like different meaning for sistemas computacionales. It's never the like literally translation.
Okay, so we can continue.
Okay, yeah. Let's continue with the working part. And this is very, very important how you write the sentence. Because as I was saying in the first point, you need to use past or present tenses. Because when the recruiter is trying like to read your resume, he's going to read only the most important parts. That is the second point. Use bullet words slash action verbs that are like they can like give you the boost that you want to like express the sentence in an easy way. And what is a bullet word or an action verb? We can like provide. We have like a lot of material in our Notion. You can like find a list of like a lot of bullet words. But basically, a bullet word is a word that is usually in the past that gives like a brief idea what you did. For example, coded, teach, um, lead. Uh, you can like this is like a general rule. You need to structure the sentence in a way that you need to put the bullet word at the front. So let's give an example. Teach three people React.js in my university's web programming bootcamp. So as you know, I use the bullet word at the beginning. And in this part, try to avoid personal pronouns. What I mean by that, like I, he, she. It's not a professional like way to read. If I like put I wrote a paper, that I know that you wrote it, right? Because you're putting it in your resume. So avoid it completely. Just use bullet words. There are a lot of bullet words, and yeah, you can like literally Google it and select like the most of fit for your what you have done and put it. But remember, if you got something that you have, well, that you created that you coded, it's in past. But if you are like in that current job, it's in present. And the third point, give details about the work that you did, what did you learn, what did you use, what was your role in the development, etc. Okay, so as you can see in the image, you have like to put the company and the position. And the position we can, this is like only like related to the point that it's your role, right? And it's important to put the role that the company gave you. And I'm saying this because I was like doing a print screen for the people that don't know what like pre-screen is. Basically, a pre-screen is a prerequisite in the US to be able like to match what you have put in your resume versus it's like basically to check if the in your resume it's real. So for example, I put a different position in one of my roles, and in my press screen it appeared like a mismatch, right? So maybe it's not a very good point to have like if the US is hiring you. And continue with the other points. Let's continue with what word that the word that you did. Yeah, exactly. You need like to put what you did, not uh, what the others did, because yeah, it's your resume. Even if it was like only a very small part of you documented or you help with the design or something like that, only put that part because, for example, they are going to ask you for the points that you put in what you did in the part of the work experience. For example, if I put something like, oh, I created the application for my web university, but in reality, I only did like it's very mal component, and maybe they're going to ask me, oh, okay, you did all the web project, right? Can you tell me about the architecture? Maybe I was not like working in that part, right? So I lied, and I'm going to say like, oh well, but I didn't do that part, right? And it depends this on on your interviewer, but it could be seen as a bad point. Okay, the next one is, what did you learn? Yeah, exactly. As the sentence says, what did you learn, right? And what did you use? This is like super important, I will say, because the recruiter is going to scan for certain keywords. And if you're like applying for a certain position, let's say a backend position in, I don't know, in Rust, and you put like, oh, well, I code in this pull thread API in Rust, right? So he will know that, oh, okay, cool. He was like writing things that he was like going to use in the future, like in this case, Rust, right? And also, um, yeah, try not to like write like super very long paragraphs of information. The sentences should be like concise and has to have like all the information that I already told you. So the next one, quantify how your work impacted on the business. And this is like the most important part of the sentence, because as a personal reviewer, I always like see like, I created a web app that I don't know, handles my school documentation. Okay, cool. And how did that impact it in your school, right? And what is it important? Because for business people and for the perspective of how your work impacted on the business, it's like, okay, cool, you did this, but why is it important? Why did you put it in there, right? If it didn't impact in the business or in the uh, position or in the company that you're working on, why did you put it? So yeah, and how can you like quantify your work? By putting numbers. So let's give an example. So an example of a good sentence, considering all the previous information that I already say to you, it will be like, reduce the time of the development by 5 seconds, uh, increasing 50% user rotation, and so you can see we use the bullet point reduced at the beginning of the sentence, and we grow what we did. We reduce the time of the development, right? Well, in this case, deployment, right? Okay, you reduce by how much? 5 seconds. Oh, okay, cool. No. How did that impact on the business? Oh, okay, so these seconds increased the 70% user rotation. Oh, okay, cool. So I know what you did. In most of what you maybe not what you learned, but how it impacted the business. So I'm not. I know what uh, the general spectrum of that bullet, well, of that sentence is, right? And finally, when you are like putting like a lot of work experience, and a lot, I mean more than one, it's important to sort them by date. And by date, it's the most recent job at the top, and that's all. Do you have like any questions here? More comments?
While we wait for questions, well, Pablo shared with us that there is something called associate degree that is the equivalent to our, well, carrera técnica. So you can use also that. And talking about this topic, also there is something, let's say a general rule that says that if there is more than, well, it's a work experience that has more than 3 or 4 years, it's not really relevant for them. So try to fit to their jobs that are for the last 3 or 4 years. And also not include all the work experience. It's the same as in the education. Only include the one that is relevant for the job that you are applying for. And you have one question in the Discord over.
Okay, let me check. Is there a words limit for each work experience? because I don't want to overwhelm with a lot of info. A word limit for each word. What do you mean, words limit? The advice that I can give you here is don't use the same bullet words because I have seen like resumes that repeat coded a lot of time or created or try to like diversify your bullet words. Oh, I get your question. No, there's not a limit, but try to like reduce as much as possible the sentence. I don't want you like to read sentences that are like more than 3 lines. Maybe 2 lines. It's like a perfect fit, at least for a visual experience. But if you want like to put more lines, you can do it freely. There are certain special cases that you want to include more than 2 lines. For example, if you're describing, for example, in my personal case, I use 4 lines to describe my master thesis, and I think it was an overkill because it was like a very deep field in computer vision. So yeah, I would like to say for work, no more than 2 lines, and for other parts, maybe 3 to 4.
Uh, I don't. I'm not sure if you mentioned, but do you mention to avoid the personal pronouns?
Yeah, I mentioned it
Oh,
in the beginning.
sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, don't worry.
There is another question. Oscar asks if I have an associate degree professional license. Okay, as we mentioned, you can include associate degrees if it is relevant to the job position. For example, well, programming, obviously. There is something, digital systems, I think is another common that is included. But if you have a associate degree in, I don't know, uh, nutrition or something like that, you don't need to include it. Also, you can only fit to the degree. The associate degree is optional. It's only, if it's relevant, will give you a few more points over the other candidates. Okay, I think we can continue.
Okay, cool. And the next section, major projects. Okay, so let's begin with the first one. Write the most relevant for you between 3 and 5, and that you want to talk about in your interview. Sort them by importance or date. So I would like to think that you are a very curious person and you do a lot of things. And maybe you have like a lot of side projects or major projects that you have done in the past, right? But maybe you only want like to put, as the sentence says, the most important ones. Because if you are going like to put a lot of major projects that maybe are like not too related to the role, uh, they can like occupy a space that you can use in another sections, right? For example, writing more sentences in the work section, or put more information in your skills. So yeah, uh, try to be as much like be super careful in this part. The second point says that you can include the scholar, side or work projects, and doesn't matter if are not finished yet. And yeah, we encourage you to try to do like side projects in your free time. And you need to remember that in some cases you can use those projects. What we mean by that, for example, let's say that you are working as a side project in an investigation paper, and maybe you cannot discuss what the paper talks about in detail because you're seeing a contract of, I'm not sure what's the name, but let's say that you're seeing a contract, and maybe your interviewer is going to be very interested in knowing more about project that you are doing with this like research. But you cannot talk about this. So yeah, try to be like super cautious about these kind of situations. I don't think that it's going to happen like very, very often, but it's important to have in mind. And the next point, you need to follow the guidelines in work experience. Here is the same. You need like to sort as the first point said by importance or by date. And if it's a side project, it's probably going to have like a link to them, right? A link to your GitHub, a link to the page, or the link to the paper that you helped you. So if it's possible and it has a link to see your final project or the project that you're working on, put put the link in the in the description or put it as an hyperlink because it is going to like have a positive impact to see like, oh cool, I can see like the final result of this side project that this person did, right? Any questions, more comments?
Well, while we wait for questions, as an additional advice, if you don't have work experience, don't worry, you can not grade that section, and you can include more projects in this case. For example, if you have work experience, probably you reduce this section to 2 or 3. If you don't have work experience, you can include 4 or 5 if you want. That also depends if you have it. And well, which other advice? Oh, if they don't have a real name, like you don't have a name because it's a scholar project or something like that, you can also include only, like, for example, if you make an online store, you can put online store. Don't worry if you don't have a cool name. The description takes 1 or 2 lines, and you can include 3 or 4 bullets of each one. Also, each bullet try to fit in 1 line, maximum 2 lines, I would say, because the bullets are concrete ideas. And it's the same in the work experience. Start with an action verb because when the recruiters makes this quick revision, they focus in the first word in each bullet point.
Yeah,
Okay.
also there are a lot of like bullet points for different roles. So for example, if you lead, there are a lot of bullet points for lead. To code, there are a lot of bullet points to code. Yeah, as we were saying, you can check the Notion. We got like a lot of information there.
Well, so I think they don't have more questions, so we can continue.
Cool. The next one is additional experience. Okay, so what is additional experience? For additional experience is leadership and awards. So the first point says that you need to put any additional experience like leadership activities or awards. And what are those? Those are like, for example, if you won a, a competitive programming contest, if you have like a very good GPA, or if you are like an honorable person in your school, if you for what else? If you are you did a presentation, or you are speaking in some hackathon, if you're an instructor in some institution, all that kind of stuff is going to be here. And if you don't have like a space, try to do a space for leadership on awards because it's important. It shows how much you are like doing stuff, and it's having like an impact in some way uh, as an extra in your career. And To write all those leadership awards, don't forget to include the name of the contest or event and the date when it happens. And this is important because, for example, if you won a contest, it's not going to be the same. I won the international contest for, I don't know, something to win a local contest, even if it's not like that relevant. It's important, right? It's going to give you like good points anyways, but it's going to give you more points if you are like you got like a very difficult like award, or you participate in a very heavy like conference. And
Well, I want to add, I noticed that we have a typo in leadership. We will fix
yeah,
it. Don't
don't
pay
worry.
attention to that.
Also, this is important to include how many contestants were, because yeah, as I was saying, you're like trying like to show how much effort did you put, or how much did you achieve in this hour, right? So, for example, I second place team out of 124 at Microsoft College Code Competition, right? So I show well, where I was placed, how many elements or participants were, and at what institution I won, or which event I won this hour, right? And finally, focus on what really matters. If you're applying for a coding role, being an Eagle Scout in high school is probably not very important. Yeah, maybe it's going to show, well, in this specific example, show you leadership, but does that really matter? Uh, we, as advice we give you is like just put the roles that are going to land you in that job. And yeah, if it's not related like to maybe coding or some skill that you want like to highlight, I will say that it's not going to be like the most important bullet in your leadership on awards. Do you have like more comments, Emmanuel?
What can Mara say? Well, this section is something. Well, I was not aware of that one. I started to see that, I think, the last year. So it's like not really formal, or for example, it's not in the Microsoft template, but I have seen that more people is starting to use it, so you can include it. Also as an additional recommendation. Oh, I was going to say something and I forgot it. Oh yeah, you can change this section depending of what you include. Also, you can put, for example, at the beginning, I have only my awards included in my skill section. But I think, well, at least for me, it's more relevant. Also, you need to, well, one of our first advices was focusing which company are you applying for. Why? Because I would say a quick example. If you apply to Facebook, Facebook is more interested in your technical skills or something like that. So probably if you include the leadership and awards, okay, it will be nice, but will be not relevant for them. But in the other side, Microsoft and Google are more focused in making impact and, well, the cultural part or something like that. So probably for that companies is more relevant. But in my opinion, you can include it for all the companies. Only if you need to make space, you can change that depending of the company that you are applying for. So do you have any question?
I have one.
Yes.
Can I ask? Well, at high school, I mean, I am starting the career, well, almost. I'm third semester. But at the end of the high school, I won a small prize. Well, kind of a small. I don't know. I don't want to be like I don't know the word in English, but I mean, it will be good to include that prize in the resume. I mean, it is related with logic, not precisely programming, but maybe will be useful. So I was thinking it will be okay if I include it in the resume.
Yeah, in this part is, yeah, you said it's related to logic, and logic is very important as there as a general, like a curious date. There is something called it SAT, and SAT is a very complex problem. So yeah, include it. Don't worry about that.
Thanks.
Yeah, remember that logic and mathematics are related to the computational system, well, computational field. So it's okay if you include it. Also, for example, there is a, well, in the example, is a prize for physics. So this also something that you can include it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I think we don't have more questions. We can continue.
Okay, cool. And skills and more is, I guess, the final section. So okay, so what have we talk about this? First, you need to put your skills in order of how comfortable you feel. And you might be wondering which skills. By skills, we mean by programming languages, frameworks, operating systems, and all the skills that you got that are related again to land to your uh, to the role that you are like trying to play, right? And only put the what is related to the job description, and do not include something that you are not comfortable with. And what do I mean by comfortable with? For example, if I only touch or I only did like hello world in, let's say that mm, Haskell, I'm not gonna put it in like my skills because maybe my interviewer is going to say, "Oh, okay, cool. You put Haskell into your skills, so you know Haskell, right? So what can you tell me about like why Haskell is important in functional programming, right?" And you're going to be like, "Well, I only did my hello world in Haskell." And it's going to give you like a bad points, or you can be like very like ashamed because you put it like without thinking about the real consequences of putting like that language or that skill, right? And this is you need like to put how many years or how confident you feel about these skills. And this is like two different approaches to put your skills. For example, if you put your how many time you have been using that, for example, that programming language. And it's important here to like notice that in, those years are years like of experience that you have been working like professionally with that programming language. For example, if I have been like programming in Python for 4 years, but I only have been writing simple functions, like only like to do like super simple things, maybe are not going to put like too many years, right? Maybe the equivalent is going to be like 1 year, because more years it means that you are more experienced, right? So if you are more experienced, you know more about like deep deep parts of the language. So if I were a recruiter, I will have something like, okay, you got like 4 years of Python, so that means like you are like a mid role. So can you tell me more about like how manage how garbage collection or something related to very deep stuff, right? And here we have like an example of that. Do you want like to talk more about Oscar's experiences, Manuel?
Talk about what? Sorry.
Oscar's experience about putting like too many
Oh,
years in C++.
yeah, that example. Well, Oscar, he knows a lot of C++ and JavaScript. He watch a lot of videos about that from the C++ creator or something like that. So he knows a lot. And in his resume, he put like he has a lot of experience in C++. And his interviewer asked him questions like, okay, this is I don't remember the exact topic, but a really complex topic in C++. For example, I don't know, the virtual memory of C++, how it works, something like that. It was like really difficult topic. And in that case, if you don't know, you are like bad, or let's say that it's not really nice to fail in that question. But in the case of Oscar, Oscar answered correctly, and he gives good points. So try to not exaggerate. Also talking about the time, well, as you can see, we put a note. Don't write percentage or this kind of bars. Like I know 70% of Python because that's really, really ambiguous. But you can, there is an option that you can include that is a proficiency level. I'm not sure how it is pronounced. And in that case, well, in general, in your resume, you need to be care of what you put, and you need to know the pros and cons of each decision. So in the case of the time versus the proficiency level, let's say like the time is less ambiguous or less subjective because you're putting only the time. But if you put the proficiency level, it's an auto-evaluation. What's the good part of put the proficiency level? Because you are auto-evaluating you. And if example, if you put 4 years of Java, probably yeah, you have been working 4 years in Java, but that 4 years you are only working with the same template, or you're only copy pasting code. So you don't really know a lot of Java, but you have been working a lot of Java in Java. Oh, sorry, you have been working a lot with Java. So in that case, it's your decision. Only you need to be care of the pros and cons of each of them. You can continue over.
Oh yeah, so can you put the next one?
Yes. Wait me a second.
Cool. Yeah, as we were saying, this is the first point here. This is about how much you have used it. I don't know how long you have know it. And yeah, as we were discussing, there are like different like pros and cons of putting like years or proficient level. And the second point is be careful what you know as a programming language. So, for example, try to search what really is what you're putting there. For example, you don't want to start a discussion if HTML is a programming language, right? This is, if you're curious, this is a very interesting topic because I guess also CSS is a programming language. But yeah, exactly. I'm not. I don't want to create discussions about this. So if you're going to put it in like some category, Google it before like putting in there, right? And oh, sorry. And there are like another part that is the technologies part, and in this part you can list like a lot, right? There are a lot of like technologies. Just try to distinguish between programming languages and technologies. I have seen resumes that put GitHub in programming language. I don't remember, but yeah, as I was saying, Google it. What is the word that you're going to put it because you want to avoid those kind of like mistakes. And you can like distribute your technologies by type. For example, in my resume, I have like I distributed like the technologies by, for example, relationship databases, application, operating system, and this is up to you. You only can use your imagination or how you like fit these sections in your resume, right? And also it's easier like for the recruiter to see like, okay, I'm trying like to hire I'm not sure a DevOps person, right? So you put like a DevOps category, and I can say like Docker and so on and so on, right? So maybe it's easier for the interviewer, but it's up to you. It doesn't matter. And here you can include time if you want. The relevant parts are in programming languages. So yeah. Next one, please.
One more question about, well, one more advice about programming language. The time is required because they want to know how much do you know and also to fit you in the interview. But usually you can make the interview in the language that you prefer. Doesn't matter if you have more time with Java, you can make the interview with Python or something like that. Usually, some interviewers are really, I don't know how to say it, like payasos, and they ask you a specific programming language. Well, also depends of the position. If you're applying for data science or something like, or for an engineer, you will be required for a specific programming language. In data science, for example, in Python or in front end, the front end engineer positions are usually only made in JavaScript. Okay, continue.
Okay, next one, please. Okay, the other part here is online courses. And here you can write the most important ones from recognized schools or platforms. For example, I used to be a very like addict to Platzi like lessons, online lessons, but I got like a lot of like credentials, so I'm not going to put it like, oh, okay, I got like a certificate in database management in SQL. You can put like plus 25 licenses from a platform, and it is not mandatory write all of them, and you can write the online courses by topic. And yeah, as you can say, I would like to write the most important without like abbreviation. For example, if I took an MIT course, I can put like, okay, MIT, right? There are like different levels of hierarchy, and that's for. Oh, it also it's important to put like when did you took the the online lesson or the career or the course, because maybe it's a very like old topic, and this is important because maybe they are going to ask you something about that course. And this happened to me in one of my interviews. They asked me about a very specific part of the course because the person that, well, my interviewer was taking the same course as me, and we were discussing about, oh, what was your favorite part about this topic? And I was like, oh, this, it was like this one, and okay, no, and maybe if there is a very old course, they're not gonna ask you for that because memory fails sometimes, and that's what is important the day that you when did you took your course. And the last part is languages. It's not mandatory to include it, but you can, well, it can show your flexibility to communicate. And if you're including your language, it's important if you have like certifications. For example, okay. For example, if you got a B2 or a C1 in another language, put it in here. That's all for this part. Do you have any questions?
In general, it's all for the section, so you can't make any question about that. We will only give you, well, the next slides are for a few advice more.
Okay. So last advices. The first one, consistency. Uh, yeah, use formal language. Try to see for your punctuation and use bullet points. Your cover letter. Um, well, do you want to talk more about this cover letter?
Yeah. I'm only fixing a typo. Don't pay attention to that. Okay, the cover letter, well, I don't know if you know, but the cover letter basically is uh, like a description or, yeah, a few introduction about yourself. You can include it. Yes, it's not really common, but you can include it and make a quick description of who are you or something like that. Anyways, in all of you, well, in some of your interviews, you will have questions like, tell me about yourself. The tell me about yourself and the cover letter is more or less the same. A quick introduction about about you talking about what do you like, what are you. You can also include what are you applying for, or sorry, why are you applying to the company. What do you want, what do you like to do in your free times, something like that. It's not really common. Also, as I mentioned, depends of which company are you applying for. For example, Google, that is a company that really likes this googliness. If I don't remember wrong, Duarte is not here. Well, Google has this something called googliness, which is more or less the cultural part. Oh, sorry. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I fixed it, cover. Uh, the googliness is the cultural part of your person. So if you're applying to Google, you can include this cover letter. As a general recommendation, I don't recommend it. It will only give you a few points in some companies, but it's also another option. You can continue, cover.
Okay, cool. Your phylum, yeah, if you are like applying to the companies, try to name your resume. You search your first name underscore last name underscore resume, because it's easier for you. Well, it's easier for the interviewer or for the machine like to see your resume in this one. Like if I'm searching through 100 resumes, I can say like, oh, okay, this is the person that I'm looking for. The standard. Keep a standard design. For example, use the same uh, typography for all your resume. Have like a hierarchy. For example, my title sign in 12 points, and my schools and the most important parts are like underline. Yeah, have a standard design. The format, as we were saying in the first class, it's important to have your resume delivered in PDF, and the space. Um, Keep a little bit of a space. You don't want like to have like too much white space, but you don't want also like to give a very stretch resume. So try to play with the margins and see what fits for you. And yeah, not spares. Think what you can include to fill your resume, and don't write like stuff that you don't want like to be asked for or that are not relevant to the job. Next one, please.
Okay. Well, also, yesterday we shared with you the Notion link. Oh, let me resend it. In the Notion link, uh, okay, that's the link. We have examples of our resumes. In general, you can look of all of them. As we told you, you can change the design, but try to keep the structure. Also, you can include hyperlinks to show your work. As I told you, only use the hyperlinks to show what you really want to show. Don't put hyperlinks because of yes. I have seen GitHubs that are empty, and for me, well, I consider that is a kind of waste of time because I'm opening a link and wasting my time checking that, and it's empty. Also, in your GitHub, if you want to include your links to your projects, in the README, have your README in English and also include images. Not only like the general structure of a README, which is the description, the instructions to installation, and etc. You can also include examples, screenshots or videos of how it works. Why? Because the recruiter or the interviewer will not install your project, but with these images, they can see what you've done. And I think that's all for this part. Well,
Yeah.
okay, let me continue.
So you might be wondering, okay, cool. But I don't have like a lot of experience of a lot of like side projects. So how to gain experience to build an outstanding resume, right? So there are like a few tips that we can give you like to begin to like building your like this part of your resume. And there are like four advices that we could give you to you. The first one is open source. Yeah, you can like contribute to a lot of like repositories outside of GitHub. Do pull requests to be able like to get like a real experience of how open source works in other platforms. You can also have like groups that can help you with that part, like IBM developer. And another part will be contests. If you want to like put something in awards, you can do a lot of contents like ICPC, Google Code Jam, Facebook Hacker Cup. There are a lot of contents out there. Hackathons. You can participate in a hackathon. Right now, I guess there are a lot of hackathons online because of the lockdown. And yeah, you can like maybe participate in one hackathon, do something very cool, learn something about like in 1 or 2 days. And it's a possibility that you can win some prize, maybe some 3D printer, money. And hackathons are like a super cool idea to learn something like very quick and yeah, deliver it to the world. Example of this, there is like MLH, that is the Mexican League Hackathon. I guess I'm not sure if this
No,
is
no,
the
no,
correct
no,
name.
no. It's not Mexican. It's the Major Leagues Hackathon.
Oh yeah, I'm so
Is
sorry.
the league is a league in United States. It's really important.
Oh yeah, the one in Mexico is I guess MXMLH or MXX. I don't remember. I'm so sorry about that. Well, Open Hacks, Hackathon.io. There are a lot of like hackathons out there. Also, GitHub has its own like page to host hackathons, if I'm correctly.
Yeah,
Uh,
in general, most of the companies have his own personal hackathons, Microsoft, Facebook, etc. Some of them are open, and other ones are for employees only. And that also applies for open source. Most of the big companies has repositories for their open source, and you can contribute to them. And well, that's all. You can continue.
okay, and finally, exposure, right? How much persons do you know you? And in this part, we can like you can interact with people in LinkedIn, in Twitter, in Stack Overflow, your personal friends. Twitter is very. I would like to say that it's a very cool place to like interact between people because I have been like talking with persons that do very specific things in Twitter. And maybe you could get advices, or maybe he can like check your resume and give you like a second opinion. So yeah, that's why social media is important, right?
Not only for your resume, also they can give you projects to work on, or they can invite you to hackathons, and also they can give you referrals to companies. So exposure is really important.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be shy and try to reach as much persons as you can. Obviously, that you are like that person is related like the thing that you would like to touch, like distributed system. I don't know. There are a lot of people in the world, right?
Well, also in Discord, not only our Discord, another Discords for tech company, or for tech people in general. That's also another way, another place that you can find this exposure.
Yeah. So next one, please. And okay, cool. You got your resume, you got your all your experience, you put it in the correct format, everything is cool, right? But now, uh, how are you going to deliver your resume, right? And next one, please. There are different important parts here to know how like to send the resume to that company or that position that you want. The first one is its official website, right? So this is like the most straightforward part sometimes, because for example, when I was trying to apply to Google, I wasn't like very sure how to apply through its website. It was like very confusing, but yeah, it's like the direct way to apply. It's not the most uh, it's not correct. This is another word. It's not like the more approach the most approachable way because you're applying as millions of persons, right? So maybe you're going to like have a difficult time to get an interview. because you need to go through the process of like the robot, and the robot has like to give you like a score, a good score to be able like to reach a real recruiter. The second one that is like easier, it's LinkedIn, because in LinkedIn you are reaching a person, right, a recruiter. So you can say like, okay, I saw this position in your official page, and I'm interested in applying in. Could you like take a look to my resume, and you can set your resume, and that's all, right? It's easier because you are interacting with a person. Also, it's the same situation with recruiters. Recruiters, you can meet recruiters in recruitment events. For example, if you are a student right now, it's super probable that Facebook, Google, Netflix, Amazon, all the big companies are going to give you, well, are going to give you a talk about recruitment in your school, and it's a great opportunity to meet recruiters and ask them for their email, and send your email. Also, they encourage you to send them your resumes, and yeah, you pass the first filter, that it's uh, the robot one, and you are delivering your resume to a real person, right? So this is very related to events. This is basically the same. You can meet recruiters in events. And the last one is referrals. So you might be wondering, what is a referral? A referral is a way to skip the first process of uh, the machine, well, the web page, and you are, when you get a referral, you're going to deliver your resume to a real person, to a recruiter. So for example, if a referral only can be like random for a person that currently works at the company, for example, people that work at Google can give you a referral to apply for a role, right? And yeah, your, as I was saying, your resume is going to be in the hands of a real recruiter. And email is related like to recruiters and events and referrals, right? Because they're going to give you an email in which you are going to like send your resume. And I would like to say that, do you have like any questions? More comments?
Well, that was the last slide. And in general, we will talk more about well, the referrals part in the next lesson. Well, not the next lesson. The next lesson, remember that, is to talk about the internship experience. Is the Friday's one. So you can give us your questions and ask us about the internships and how it is, how it works, what we do, etc. But well, the next lesson, the Monday's one, is to talk about the company's process and the difference between them. Also, we will talk about the referrals, how it works, and what, in general, what they are. Do you have any questions about resumes? Well, while we wait, because we need to test how many delay we have. We will send you a message. Wait me. Okay. You can send us your resume to get feedback. Only write us like, I want feedback about my resume, and we will review your resume. As we mentioned, we are not experts, we are not recruiters. All of this is about our experience and articles that we have read. That articles, well, I think most of them are in the Notion, so you can review it as well. We hope that you have been preparing your resume, and with these advices, you improve them. And when you feel comfortable with your resume, you can send it to us. We will review it. We will send the feedback. And this is an iteration process. So when you get the feedback, you can make the change and do some change, make another version of your resume, and you can resend it to us. Doesn't matter how many times, we want to help you, so feel free to send your resume to us. Also, you can send your resume in our Facebook page or here in our Discord. The mail is only one of the what is the word? One of the ways that you can send the resume to us. So, do you have any question? No? Well, if you don't have more questions, that's everything for today. Thanks to all the people that attend the lesson. Eric, you are in mute.
Oh wait, someone is typing.
Oh, okay.
Typing. Okay, no.
Okay,
If
probably.
there are no more questions,
Okay,
thank you so
if
much for your time.
okay, thanks everyone for your time. Feel free to send us your resume. It will be our pleasure to review it. And we see you at Fridays. So that's everything for today. See you.